Hello, and welcome to the MentorDINO podcast. I'm your host, Katelyn Rossier. I am an architect and founder of MentorDINO. Join me each week as I speak with amazing professionals in and around the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, as we are all part of a larger interconnected community. We discuss everything from career stories, lessons learned, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, welcome to the conversation. And if you like this episode, please do me a favor by hitting subscribe, like, or share it with a friend. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own unique career journey. Welcome back to the MentorDINO podcast. We are continuing our firm series, and this is episode 3 of a 4-part series. So the first 2 parts, we talked to solo entrepreneurs and then entrepreneurs that started their firm as a partnership. So today I'm going to be diving into small and medium firms. So this one's a bit hard because for architecture firms, I hate the scale. We jump from solo to a weird small medium, and then there's like this giant weird gap of firms of a decent size that you don't really know where to put them, and then all of a sudden they're just clumped into the large and get clumped into the mega large firms. So this one's hard. So this one, for the small and medium firms, I'm pulling professionals that are slowly building up their teams that have been around for a decade, and teams that are the middle size and growing. So it's a variety of professionals on this one, and I did have a lot of professionals that do work or own a firm with a team behind them. So it was hard to pick just a few, but for this episode, I picked 4 amazing professionals for you, and I can't wait to introduce you to them. So I have Katelyn Herold. She owns her own interior design firm. Nicole Dumont. She owns her own architecture firm and has a few professionals under her. Daniel Woodroffe, who owns his own landscaping architecture firm. And wrapping up with Bob Shelton, who owns a design build firm. So jumping in first with Katelyn. So Katelyn was episode number 52, if you want to go check out her whole full story. And definitely check out her advice for young professionals. I love her analogy, and so I won't spoil it. So go check out her whole episode. But she talks about her path into learning about interior design, because even her path starting out wasn't a traditional path of just going to architecture interior design school and going down an interior design route, starting her own firm. She really built her firm based on experiences, working hard, partnerships, a network, and really leveraging those clients you have to start your own business. So learn a little bit about Katelyn Herold. Again, she was episode number 52, and she is an interior design owner. What was that process like for you deciding to step in and create your own firm?
Well, it was kind of a long time coming. I'd worked for this incredible firm called 555 for 13 years, or let's call it 12 years when I decided. And it was around that time in my personal life that I felt I was ready to start making a move. And the company that I worked with for, they also create many of the things that we would design. And so the manufacturing part was a very important part in the company, truly the most important part. And design was added to that. I helped build that design studio, and I would hire everyone and work with everyone. And many times I would have relationship with our clients during that design process. And then the other side of the company would produce many of the items that we would design for the full interiors. And as it goes in manufacturing, many times there's issues, like something is a little bit too long or something's a little bit too short, or, the finish might not be exactly as expected. And that would create friction with those clients. And for me, that was really hard because it just wasn't my focus, and it's not something that I wanted to focus on. And I felt it was very distracting from that, what I wanted to focus on. It took a lot of time. And so for me, part of leaving that company, besides that, I also felt it was time to run my own thing. was also that I really want to just strictly focus on design and not on the manufacturing side. So when I started Studio K, 555 would still produce a lot of our work, but we wouldn't have anything to do with it anymore. And I didn't have to guarantee it or work through that with the client. So I could really focus on just that part that I enjoy so much, which is the creativity of it all.
Yeah. And I think I read that you started your firm with a team rather than solo. I know most people start out solo and start to build up the team. So how was that starting out as a team?
So I was really lucky because when I decided to do this was a year prior to me leaving. So I gave my boss 1 year notice, which I don't think that's something a lot of people do. But I knew that the company, for 13 years, I had ran that division. So I knew there was going to be a hefty impact. I wanted to give my boss, who's still a close friend of mine, the chance to build his own team. I knew that many of the people that were in the team would go with me because I had been the only one working with them. So it just made sense for their perspective. The people that were working with me at that firm, many of them went with me. And so that was the team that I started with.
Yeah. And probably good you gave a year heads up. So, that's respect back to the place you were working at, because especially if you're going to be pulling people to start something, I mean, it's a small community. As long as everybody respects each other, you can then
don't
lean
burn
in
any
and help.
bridges. And that's why we were just very transparent about it. And we hired new people. I trained them. I got them all going. And there were a couple of clients that we knew were going to come with me because it was just a very personal relationship. All that was discussed from the beginning. So it was sometimes you hear about, was it Gwyneth Paltrow who started the term the uncoupling? So we uncoupled for a year, and I'm really glad we did because, like you're saying, it's a very small community, and we're still really good friends because of that. And life's kind of too short for the drama that comes with people leaving, and giving like 2 weeks notice or things what they do.
Yeah. So what types of projects do you focus on in Studio K?
It's a mishmash of a lot. So in general, most our expertise is in restaurants. And I became known in Chicago when I designed Girl on the Goat for Stephanie Izard. And Boca, really, I should say the Boca Group. And that then led to many other restaurants for well-known chefs. It's what I really enjoy most of creating something for a chef. That's still one of my favorite things to do in the world. Most difficult, but also the most rewarding when it all goes well. So that led to many larger restaurants, hotels, resorts. We do a tremendous amount of private residences, many times for those people that are our clients and then start building homes all over the world. I try to limit that because it's a lot of work and not necessarily my favorite. What else? We do a lot of work in the mountains. So currently we're doing a lot of work in Canada for some heli ski organizations and redoing a lot of these heli ski lodges. So yeah, a lot of lodges, a lot of mountain work, and resorts. I think that's kind of it, most of it. We're getting into the golf world a little bit. That's interesting.
The opposite season, once the skis are done, now they want to golf.
Yeah. And a lot of those resorts, they're kind of somewhere in areas where you can ski in the winter and golf in the summer. So that kind of overlaps. Some of everything. We're doing a food hall. On any given day, we're in average of 50 projects at the same time. So it's a wide range of experiences, which is really nice because it keeps us alert and it really works with the team because they would come and they say, "Oh, I really want to work on a restaurant now for a while," or we do a lot of student housing actually. So then it's good if you don't do the same thing for the same type of work every day.
Mm-hmm. It's able to mix it up a little bit.
Exactly.
So what's the hard part on doing restaurants? I've never done one.
Well, restaurants itself, I don't think are that hard because we've just done, I don't know, hundreds at this point. Many times it's hard to do a restaurant for a chef, like a personal chef, like instead of working for a larger restaurant group, because it's almost like doing a private restaurant, right? It's hyper personal. Most time the chef has left a larger restaurant. They collect all of their money and that of their parents and that of their friends. And so there's a high level of risk because restaurants, cost millions. And so there's when it's a beginning chef, there's a lot of nervousness around that and a lot of second guessing, and they've never done it. So I have to kind of help them along in what's done and when you do it and how you do it. So that's just a very personal commitment of, about a year or two. And that comes with its challenges, like doing a private home comes with its challenges because it's so personal. The other side of it, because it's so personal, you're creating it together. And when that all goes well and the restaurant is then very popular, then that also creates a bond. Like many of my chef clients and I will call those our babies. And so it really feels like you're building like a family together. And the more restaurants you do together, the easier that gets and the more trust there is. And the easier it is for me to kind of get in their head. But it's still to this day, for me, the most rewarding thing that if one of these chefs walks in her or his restaurant, like, how did you know? This is exactly what I had in my head. And that's like, drop the mic kind of moment. And still so much more rewarding than if you've done something big for a large corporation and the CEO is happy. Just a different level of appreciation. And yeah, so I can't do 10 of those at the same time, but to always have one of those somewhere happening is very exciting and rewarding.
Yeah. And when you have the bigger ones, it's the chefs change. So, you know, when you create that space for them, it is a lot like a residence. If somebody's going to build their own and it not be through some cookie cutter housing plan, they're not planning on leaving that. This is their putting their stake in the ground, and a lot like a chef.
Exactly.
So have any of the chefs that did their own house have ridiculous kitchens at home?
You know what? I've never done a chef's home.
I
don't think they make enough money to build their own. I don't think chefs make that much money. I don't know. No, most of the time the houses that I'm doing are for the developers and big execs of big companies, and they fly around on their own plane and they build houses, in the mountains, by the sea. But it's never those restaurant people somehow.
Interesting. So I know you have 50 projects running at any one time. What's the size of your team now? Like, what was it when you started versus now?
We started with 5 and we're at 18. Somewhere before COVID, we were at almost 30. I realized due to COVID, but also kind of already before that that's too large for me to still have oversight and still enjoy the design part of it and not only get lost in the management of running a company. So right around that 20 mark is I think for me an ideal spot to be. And it gives enough play that people can choose their projects and they can work together. But it's also not so large that you have the risk of becoming more corporate and business driven. I still it's my goal to always stay that studio with a studio environment and a lot of collaboration and everyone out there, in the big open room. And as soon as I felt losing that was definitely a time to readjust and bringing the team back to around that 20 mark.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for firm owners trying to find that sweet spot number that works for them?
Yeah, many people, like, I'm friendly with the owners of Avoco, a very big, super well-known firm. And he always said to me, once you're getting over that 25 number, then it's best to start a separate studio. So they have multiple studios in different towns. So I do think, from everything that I've heard from other people, and I can only speak for me because I've only had this company, but that above that 25 number, it definitely gets harder to hit the same margins. Like, it gets harder to oversee everything. And so many times your margins get much less at that point. So yeah, I guess advice for that, keep it lean and mean as much as you can, because it's very hard to build up a team and then, or not have enough work, or not have enough oversight. So I think in the beginning of my career, or at least of my company, I took a lot of pride in how big we were getting. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of getting into bigger and better, because you just react to what the outside world says. Oh my gosh, now you already have 10 people. And you're like, yeah. Oh, now already 15 people. And you see it kind of as a proof of success. And it took me definitely some time and some hard lessons to realize that the success definitely doesn't lay in the size of it. It's just on the output and how the team functions. So I would advise everyone to grow as slow as possible.
Yeah. And I guess figure out what is their, I don't want to say like guiding star, but I guess what's their goal? Because you started Studio K to focus on design, and it wasn't to be the largest firm in Chicago or anything.
Exactly.
So
yeah. So I think whoever starts a company, most people would write a business plan, at least for the first 5 years, and really have this idea of like, hey, where do I want to be in 5 years? And that's something that we discuss with each of the team members every year. In their anniversary week, we always have like a little sit down, and one of the main questions is always, where do you want to be next year? So if you know that, and I think for a company, you cannot only look a year, you need to look about 5 years ahead in my mind. But having that idea of where you want to be definitely helps you making those day-to-day decisions, and not just react to whatever client might knock on your door.
Welcome back. Now, I want to step back a little bit. So, Karen is a little bit more senior in her running her own firm. And this time, I want to grab a younger firm owner. So, Nicole Dumont, she was episode number 75, and I met her at the Women's Leadership Summit in Chicago in 2024. I have to like keep track of what dates and when I meet people, but she is a small firm owner that went off on her own and actually has a small team behind her now. So a little bit more of a team that is younger professionals building up, but she talks so much about having strong mentors, deciding to go off on your own, and that you don't have to do it by yourself. Keep and leverage those contacts and colleagues, be able to ask for help when needed, ask for somebody to QC your set, and it doesn't have to be all on your own. So this is Nicole Dumont's story. And again, she was episode number 75 if you want to hear her full story. Jumping over into your own firm, how did you know it was time to go off on your own?
I think there were several different markers that kind of showed me that it was a chance I was willing to take. At that time, the firm I was working at, I really felt stuck. They were having like a big management shift, and they were retitling everybody. And I felt like I had really poured my heart into a few different areas: the architectural library, code, like defining code and making almost like cheat sheets to help people navigate the code. And it was kind of just going completely unnoticed. And that was really heartbreaking. And not that I needed a monetary attaboy for it, but I think I was looking for like a little bit of like, hey, you're doing a good job. And at that time, I had already received my license. I was project managing a fairly large adaptive reuse project that was a historic tax credit and a really tight budget and a really complicated building. So I had, essentially a remote office that I would go over to on the job site and spend 2 days a week at. So I went over there and I was talking with the owner of the general contracting firm doing the job. How did you start your firm? Would you do it again? Do you have any, do you know any other firms in the area? I'm just kind of ready for something different. Who would you recommend as an architecture firm? And this owner said to me, well, if you have your license, why don't you just go off on your own? We always get small projects that we could push to you. They need a stamp, but they're way too small for a firm like the one you're working at. Even if it's temporary, we could keep you busy and we could keep you paid for a little while you decide and look around. So I thought about it. I went home. I talked to my then husband about it and talked to my mentor about it. And decided that it was a risk I was willing to take at that time. So the next day, or a day or two later, I went online and registered my business with the state of Ohio. I called a lawyer to set up the LLC because I didn't want to mess that up in any way. That, like, starting a business, I wanted to make sure I did everything correctly. And then I opened a business bank account. I got an EIN number, and now I'm
Ta-da!
almost 6 years into it. Yeah. It's crazy. I think one of the hardest parts was deciding what my logo was going to look like and what colors I wanted as my business background.
Yeah. And as design professionals, because it's like, well, you have to make a decision and stop at some point and roll with it, and you can rebrand later, but it's not something you can
rebrand. The other thing that was hard was, I didn't want to name it Nicole Dumont Designs or Nicole Dumont Architecture or, whatever. I felt a tremendous amount of pressure to not advertise that I was a woman-owned business at that time. So I talked to a few other friends of mine, other design professionals, and kind of got some input on how can I discreetly name my firm after myself without just blatantly using my name.
Yeah. What was their advice? Because I know, I don't know, when you hit certain parts of the country, being a female professional in a male-dominated industry, they just see the name and they'll go somewhere else because of the name.
Yeah.
But
a lot of the advice was, oh, you're being silly. Just name your business whatever you want to. Some of their advice, well, I ended up using my initials, and that was advice I was given. And I liked that. It was discreet enough. It didn't feel boastful in my mind, for my own emotional security in it. I had some really crazy names that I immediately said no to. So, yeah.
Yeah. And coming up with a name that's not taken. I know when I had to come up with MentorDINO, it took me forever because I was blogging under Mentor Architect, but because I wasn't going to do architectural services, I couldn't use the word architect legally.
Yeah.
So it was like coming up with a name, but I didn't want to put my name on it. So going through the process, so many pieces of paper and words and trying to figure out what to do.
Yes. And then trying to see if the website domain was available and the Facebook domain and the Instagram domain. So my website is actually NR Design ARCH because there is an NR Design in a different country that's graphic design or something like that. That domain was actually already taken. So we had to get creative.
Yeah. There's so much already taken. You're like, I have this brilliant idea. And then you do a search and you're like, damn.
As soon as we picked a name for my son, I went and started him a Google email to make sure he could have his name.
Grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you get once you start your own firm. Then it's like, okay, now I'm going to
Yes.
set up my kid up for success by having a Gmail.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
But I also wanted to circle back on how you had your mentor from before to reach out to, which, if you're only have been in one firm, a lot of the times if you're thinking about going off on your own, you don't want anybody in your firm to know that you're going down that
Right.
direction. Because
Right.
then if you don't do it or something happens where you decide to pull back, then I don't know. I always feel like you don't want to be judged if you're looking around or doing something else. So
Yeah.
I think that's important to keep track of people you
It
used to work with.
is. It is. And I spoke to him a lot, Eric Letbetter, my manager, if he's going to listen to this podcast eventually. He was a great resource. He had been a cheerleader of mine. He was almost always available to answer questions, whether it was, hey, how do I set up a car loan, to, hey, how do I detail this? And then actually the manager I was working under directly at the firm I left to start this, I had a really close relationship with him as well. So I was open with him, and I tried to share why I was doing it and what I was looking for and in leaving their firm. And he made it sound like if I wanted to come back ever, the doors would be open. And even to this day, I see him at different AIA events, and it's great to catch up with him. It's great to get to show him what we're working on. I actually presented to him because he's on an architectural review board in a city that I did a project in. And that was a really cool experience for him to then get to see us, presenting a project of our own. So even that relationship, though, we were both sad to say goodbye, I feel like that one is also a fun, a fun one to keep track of and, share updates with.
Yeah. And keeping that open connection. Because so many times people talk about don't burn bridges, but it goes both
Right.
ways on the employer side. Like if your
Yeah.
firm goes south and you need something or you can help them out, don't burn the bridge
Right.
to let good employees come back if something doesn't end up
Right.
working out.
Yeah.
So, welcome back. So, now we're going to go take a landscape architecture approach, and I'm going to introduce you to Daniel Woodroffe. He was episode number 59, and he is a landscape architect down in Austin, Texas. And he started DWG. And over there, he talks about deciding to start your own landscape architecture firm, his inspiration for landscape architecture. And I even believe since then they've opened up an office in London, which was his dream starting out. So it's all full circle and where your network can take you and being able to really create a design firm that has design behind its passion and people and how people experience design and being to advocate for it and really leveraging Daniel and other landscape architects in your designs to make sure that your design and people approach isn't just left to the building and the front door, but it is the entire approach to the building and everybody's experience to the world around us. So, this is a little bit from Daniel Woodroffe's episode number 59 on him starting his own landscaping firm.
In the peak season, I think it's nearly 20 million bats coming out from the Congress Avenue Bridge. It's more like a Batman movie than it is anything else.
Yeah, but yeah, thinking of how something gets built and nature just will decide what it wants it to be sometimes.
For sure.
So, but I always ask this question when firms don't use their name. Where did DWG come from? Is that just abbreviated?
It is, but it was. It very much was purposely meant to have a dual meaning. Daniel Woodroffe Group. Thank you, parents, for that synergy. But it's also, DWG is the file name extension for a drawing in AutoCAD. We put the period on the other end, so it's DWG dot as opposed to .dwg. So Autodesk didn't come and hunt us down for having a copyright infraction. But Yeah, I mean, just the dialogue about fundamentally, what do we do on a daily basis? We draw, we imagine, we create these things, and so the kind of the duality of, yes, it is a practice with a founder, and it's a quirky 3-letter word, but for those in the know, it also has a kind of a fun little tongue in cheek that it's quite literally what we do every day.
Yeah, because that's the first thing I thought of was the drawing side. But then, I always think of acronyms or different names of the founders. And I was like, well, then where's the G come from? Because got the DW part, but
yeah, we're teeing it up for the next partner ending in G. So that's our job search.
That's a job qualification in a resume. Yeah. First or last name must start with a G. And I know the firm itself has expanded its practice out to the UK, so back out to where you came from. So what was, I guess, the decision behind expanding outside the States, and what's it like to expand a practice outside of one country?
What's it like? One hell of a roller coaster. I'm 26 years separated from working in the UK, and a lot's changed. The legality, the contracts, the relationships, and everything. London was, since the dawn of DWG, has always been, again, kind of this big, hairy, audacious goal about having, what if we ever had an Austin, London practice? I mean, wouldn't that be cool? But there was always a kind of a thought of reality of like, hold on a second. If we're going to do that, then that probably means I have to uproot here, go there, rebuild all those relationships, all that contacts, and therefore it for the longest time remained just a wonderful vision and dream to kind of measure ourselves against. And we have Mindy spends most of the year up in Pennsylvania. Nick lives in Denver. We have a whole group of people in San Antonio and have done for nearly 10 years. We don't have offices there. We've always kind of called them outposts of the pre-COVID sense of mass migration and the changing dynamic of firms to embrace life balance and then kind of creative technology to bring people together and then figure it out. So, we went through the COVID adventure, we'll call it, and a moment arose where one of my closest college friends from Edinburgh had been a landscape architect in London, had been with one firm his entire career, nearly 25 years. And he kind of got to an inflection point as well and saw that maybe he wanted to explore a different avenue, different opportunity, maybe even start a practice. And so he simply called me one day and said, I need your advice about how you started your practice. And that conversation over a couple of years just evolved into, hold on a second, why don't you just do that, but have all of the credit history, portfolio, staff resource of Austin behind you? And so today, Merrin lives in London. He's the managing partner over there. Marine, who is his right hand and lead designer, is based in Valencia in Spain. And then we have Laura, who's based in Cambridge, and they've all at various points in their careers worked together. Merrin and I have known each other for nearly 35 years. And the goal is to firstly stabilize London and get it humming. Each one of them have long relationships and practice much more urban planning than necessarily just landscape architecture. So it's really remarkably unique, but also different kind of style and scale and type of work. the goal is to, in time, start to share our resources of staff and practice to take on bigger and bigger projects. We're chasing some design competitions right now that, fingers crossed, and knock on wood, we have an opportunity to do that. And then as we grow, kind of increasing challenge, okay, Maren, now you have a skill set, come and help in Austin, and so on. And but it's not without the reality of simply saying, it's always been a dream of me to have an opportunity to have a practice back in the motherland and see what happens and see if we can actually kind of leverage the experiences and just the success we've had here and see if we can even replicate it just a small piece in London. And it looks really fun on the business card. I mean, Austin, London has a good ring to it. Austin's still considered the spirit of scrappy entrepreneurs, innovation, technology. London has a resonance of much more established, authentic, historical, 1,000-year, of course, it's design. And so finding that kind of balance of how these things synergize and operate together will be really, really fun.
Yeah. So when did the London side start?
Oh, June 3rd.
Okay, so very, very recent.
Very recently. I mean, nearly 6 months. It's flown. And right now the plan was I'm over there about every 3 months for 3 weeks or so and back and forth. Let Maren and Marine really kind of focus on building their kind of cadence of work and the settling of the phone calls and, hey, congratulations, you're a free agent. Now let's work together kind of experience. But I mean, we're now, the Pittsburgh project has opened doors. We're chasing work in New York and Philadelphia next week and just kind of running around and every day is a new adventure.
Yeah. But it's also a different approach of expanding the office, because when I hear the story, it's a lot of, if a firm wants to grow, even just in the States, either they've got to go plant somebody from their office in that city to get some legs, or they acquire a firm that's already been existent. But I love the different approach of it was a friend that just wanted to start his own firm and do his own thing and not think of it as an opportunity of, I could bring my expertise to another small firm to learn that growth, come in as a partner to learn the business side, have that ownership since, he's the main one in London. So it's a lot like having your own firm over there, but then you get the collaboration across multiple people that,
and it's a unique way that I have built the firm. Started it, did not take a bank loan, did not have any investors. It was, personal savings and keep everything super lean and grow patiently and slowly. When we can add one more person, we'll do that. We've never had the capacity or frankly the desire to just put one person in New York, hope that in a year's time, that person has enough relationships or gumption. We've never been especially keen on then acquiring a senior leader because they're in a place. It was very different for Maren because there was that
relationship,
long relationship. And I think we've also, we've talked long and hard about how we do grow, how I eventually grow out of the firm as well. And the conclusion we've always come to is that it's not about a merger and acquisition. It's about growing a culture of individuals in the firm and keeping that inherently in the firm. Join, grow, learn, lead, as opposed to Daniel run the business and then be faced with the prospect of, do I just close the door? Do I sell to a big A&E firm and walk away and potentially rupture the culture we've built? Or do we, try and build this from the inside out? And that's what we're trying to do. And I think the same is true of where we locate as well. We don't plan on having a Pennsylvania or Philadelphia or Scranton office. It's just right now Mindy lives there. I mean, her fiance is there, and naturally she will build this gravity around her of relationships and trust and influence in the Northeast, and it'll be exciting in its own regard. And maybe one day there is the critical mass to say, we've got people, we need a space, but it's never been space first, then people. And I know there are a lot of architectural firms that'll land in a city and rent space, and they'll have 2 people and 30 free desks, and it's a sense of we're building fast. That's just, we've done it differently, and it's worked well for us, but the 30 people, 3 desks then obviously works as well. So
yeah, I think it's finding what works for you and your firm culture. So, and just finding out you've got people in all sorts of cities, even the London office having cities in different countries, on just who's where, who do you need, what's the right person for what you're doing and the right fit, and not let it be just the boundaries of Austin to meet those goals. Welcome back. And one more guest I want to introduce you to, and it's Bob Shelton. He was episode number 71. He is the current AI Pittsburgh chapter president, which is why I got to interview him. But I've always been inspired by his design build firm he created. I always find that the design and the construction side really need to be connected. We can learn from each other. We can learn from contractors, trades, and partners to be able to detail better. I have had so many great conversations with superintendents and subs on site. Here's what my design intent is. If it's not working how I detailed it, how would you put it together? And that has leveraged how much I have learned in my profession, is just asking others how they would do it, and by those that actually put it together. And so his company is also entering 10 years into being in business. So this little clip is more about him starting his own design build company, and how in Pennsylvania you technically have to have 2 companies to have the design side and the build side. So he goes over a little bit of that, and that maybe just Pennsylvania or a few states. So definitely check out your state restrictions if you're going to start your own design build company. But check out his full episode if you want to hear about where he sees his company going into the future beyond 10 years. But in the meantime, enjoy the clip on how it started out. I want to dive into the firm side. So how did you decide to start your own companies? I know we were talking a little bit beforehand, so it's multiple entities to set that up. So how was that process to start going off on your own, and how did you decide to go down that design build route?
So my father had a construction company back prior to this, and it started out as a small masonry restoration company, right? And his company grew to a bit larger of a masonry company, and along the way, his client base was just sort of like, what else can you do? We trust you at this point, right? And it happened to fall in a period of transition where, that 2008 timing was pretty unstable. And so I was teaching at the time, and I was just sort of like, let's just sort of gig my way through a little bit here and find a new landing spot once all this passes. And so I was helping out in my dad's office, just, 2-3 days a week, doing estimating and meeting some clients and just helping out in his office. As he's growing into sometimes having a carpenter here and there and doing some small projects and things like that. And before you know it, 9 months, a year in, there's a couple decent sized opportunities that they meet me and they trust my dad. And it's like, well, we have a project and can you design it? Sure. One thing leads to another. And all of a sudden we have a few really big design build renovations. And I'm like, well, this makes sense. And for the business, sure, why not? But I'm not even well versed in residential work at that time, right? Like we don't get taught how to design a house, let alone how to restore 120-year-old ones. And so we find ourselves in a position that, like, great opportunity. We'll kind of figure this out and hire a carpenter or two. And, I'm literally driving materials to the site, and I'm drawing things in the house, and I'm, managing every component of this project and learning as we go. And, turned out really, really well. And all of a sudden the portfolio was sort of built. And, long story short, my father, also founded a nonprofit it's still around, and, he's moved on from it, but, Trade Institute of Pittsburgh, which does great work in the city here. And, he was the founder of that. And so at the time, the sort of donor base that was coming behind that entity said, let's sort of pick one, right? Need your attention, on that. So the timing was sort of right, for me to say, let me take all this. I'll start my own thing. I was lucky to have a lot of employees that were there, come with me, some initial clients to get going, and, created an LLC for design work and created an LLC for the construction company. And off I went and created my own brand. My dad had nothing to do with it. He made a decision to do what his heart wanted to do, and that worked out great. And I decided that it was worth the risk to sort of create an evolution of what he started with that client base and go from there. And started with 2 carpenters doing renovation, restoration work, and now we're up to 14 today.
Yeah. So I know having 2 LLCs and keeping that separate, even when you describe the employees you kind of have 2 different buckets of employees. Mm-hmm. How is that managing it from a business perspective? Because we're also not really taught the business side of architecture. And now you're running 2 businesses at the same time.
There's a lot of trial and error, right? And just aligning with smart people, right? Well back, I did one of the University of Pittsburgh courses for small business, which was actually really, really great. Helped a lot, just understanding that it doesn't matter what widget you sell, you all have the same problems as a business owner. And getting into a peer group, getting into a CEO mentorship group, understanding that there are a lot of people that are going through the same thing. That's super valuable, right? And it took me far too long to get back into one. I just recently did this past year, and it really reignited a lot of good conversations. But, as a sole proprietor, even as a larger company, you can have incredible people that work for you, but at the end of the day, you're still the only owner, right? Everything will still, at the end of the day, only fall to you. And that can be a heavy burden. And there's a lot of risk, and there's a lot of things that you need to learn along the way. But that would be my biggest advice for sure, to someone that might be wanting to start their own thing or trying to understand some nuances of business and small business, to get involved in something like the Institute at Pitt or other type of small business peer mentorship groups that teach you so much.
Yeah. Do you have any difficulty finding tradesmen at this point or seeing into the future? I know I talked to a lot of contractors on the podcast as well, and we're up against, the lack of people coming behind and having gaps in the industry, similar to us having gaps whenever the 2008 recession happened. There's a gap in the industry for those that were let go, and the trades have something a little bit different. And so you're dealing with both those dynamics. How has it been on the hiring side for the construction company side?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, our growth is not such that we need to hire a dozen a year, right? If we did, we'd be in big trouble. Perhaps that's why we haven't grown as much, because I know that we can't find that kind of staffing, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of our team has sort of organically grown. It's been a long game that they've played here, and I've been fortunate enough to have really long tenure with our people, and they get the time and space to grow into what they become, which isn't common for the industry necessarily. But Especially on the highly skilled trades, stonemasonry and high-end master carpentry in the residential space. It just does not, they're just not out there, right? And even if they're trade school trained or union trained, to do the kind of work that we do is still fairly uncommon. And so a lot of them come out of the maker type space. They were artists, or they made other kinds of things, or they, somewhat creative that just liked working with their hands and fit well in this kind of environment, and can kind of quickly get up to speed. And within a year and a half, if they really have it, they can really propel themselves forward. But yeah, it's certainly not like you just put a post up on Indeed and you've got, dozens of, commodity type employees for the same job applying. It's just not there. And I'm a huge proponent of trade schools, of trades training, of K-12 understanding of what a career can be in the trades. You can create such a great life for yourself very early on if you find out that, working with your hands is something you like to do. Along the way, realize that, hey, you can work for yourself. You understand some business. You can set yourself up really, really well.
Yeah. It's just a different path to take a look at. I'm curious where it'll go in the next 5-10 years, as I've seen more and more of those trades involvement, bringing in high school students so they can at least experience it and get out of the classroom and have fun with their hands.
Yep.
So how did you decide what, I know it was kind of just a natural progression to starting the business, but how did you decide what to focus on project type wise?
Well, the portfolio, we sort of stumbled into the period style restoration, renovation type work for residential work. And that kept us in a sort of hyper local area of Pittsburgh for a while. Quite literally 3 houses next door to each other on the same street, which kept us busy for a while, right? And you build that portfolio for a while, and for probably 6-7 years, almost exclusively did that type of project work. Then we realized that, maybe we would want to build a ground up house someday, and maybe we would want to build or design a commercial space one day. And we've gotten to do all of those things and have learned from them, good and bad, in doing so. But we just really fell in love with the concept of modern living, old space, aligned with clients that have values of taking care of the home that they bought. But they need to live in it a certain way. And having craftsmen touching it to make sure that it's going to sustain another 100 years, right? Adding on to it tastefully to expand to a growing home. And, all that just sort of spoke to the team that we had, and never felt like really deviating from that, because we were doing good work, and we were doing good work with people that we liked working for. And that goes a long way too. It's a very, very different client relationship when it's residential, right? You can work for this. We've done this. We can work for the same person in their business and on their home, and it's two entirely different clients. And, you form these very long personal relationships with these people as you're intrusively tearing apart their space. And you get to know the family, and the family grows up as you're going through these long-term projects with them. And there's just a soul to it that I think we're all very attracted to.
Yeah, soul in the architecture and soul in the occupants within it too, especially dealing with the older buildings. So yeah. I know that's something I've always appreciated from your firm's portfolio. And even I was looking for work. It's, you jump around Pittsburgh and you're one of few design build firms in the area. And then it's like, oh, what do they do? What kind of work are they going for? And you don't have to tear down old buildings. You can reuse them, repurpose them. I always like the older homes as much as I hate the low ceilings in my current house. I need to find an older home that has the taller ceilings. But I know I've always appreciated that out of the work you guys have done over the years.
Thanks.
So And celebrating 10 years of business is huge. Do you have any advice for those early years of firm ownership? I know you also just got back into the mentorship program, so wasn't sure if anybody in that group is kicking off, that you relive any PTSD from starting out.
I would just say you have to celebrate the wins, right? And you have to, you certainly have to be able to tolerate risk. And you're going to discover and uncover problems beyond the project stuff, right? Just as a business owner, things you could never even imagine in your own brain that you're going to have to navigate. So staying level, staying even keel, understanding that if you do good work and you can communicate that to clients, you're going to stay busy. You're going to lose some, you're going to win some. As long as you keep improving on process, your people stay invested. You just keep going. You just keep going. And as we hit 10 years, there's the space we sit in now, the staff we have, the way that we operate, right? Thinking about when it was me managing every single component of a project, basically sitting in the space, drawing it and helping to build it as we went to where we are, you realize that what got you here won't get you there. And at 10 years, right, I can't even imagine where 20 is. And I have to always rely on my team, what they're telling me, what clients are telling me, to always be open to changing. Always, at all times. Your staff's needs going to change. The projects coming at you are going to change. That happened at COVID, right? Mm-hmm. We never would have imagined we'd have as many rooftop decks built as we do, or exterior living spaces, right? The wave of projects that come are always going to change. So I like to think that my staff can always talk to me about what they feel about projects coming, about just general sense they get out there, how we may need to pivot to move forward, and to always be open to change, and not getting too low when you lose them sometimes, mm-hmm. right? Because stuff's going to happen. And as long as you stay with it and stay committed to what you're building, you just keep grinding. And you find a group of peers that will support you through that stuff, right? And then they're there to celebrate those wins with you too.
Yeah, because even if you're going after RFPs and proposals, you're not going to win all of them.
That's right.
It's not possible. So you can't be too bent out of shape if you don't get it. So it's move on to the next one, and the ones you do win, make it the best it can be.
That's right. I mean, you're going to lose some. I've lost plenty that I thought I had for sure, and we're going to get some that I never thought we had a shot of. And you just keep grinding, right? You keep grinding, and you take the time at moments like this, right? It's 10 years is, I guess they say, longer than most businesses survive in this industry or most. But it's a testament to the group of people that are invested in the work that we do.
Yeah. Are you guys doing anything special for like 10th anniversary, especially since it hits around the holidays?
It complicates it a little bit because we are going to do, our normal celebration for the whole team, but in our subs and vendors, put a little bit on steroids this year for that. And but we're actually going to take the entire year really as the anniversary year. That we take our core, we take our team at large, and we really just continue to reimagine and refine what we do and who we are, right? We're going to reimagine potentially our brand. We're going to reimagine how we market. We're going to reimagine how we operate, and kind of just potentially just reinforce the fundamentals that we have. But instead of it just being me by myself 10 years ago, now I've got an incredible group that's imagining that with me, and they feel empowered to help kind of make this what they want it to be also. So we're going to go on this journey for the next 12 months to really either just reinforce or reimagine sort of what we are.
All right. And that wraps up the third video of the MentorDINO firm series. And so again, this was small and medium-sized firms. If you haven't checked out series 1 and 2, those are the solo firm owners, and then the ones that start out as partnerships for episodes 1 and 2. And next week, I'm going to start talking about large firms and bringing in different aspects of working in a large firm to round out the end of the series. But if you need a recap on who we talked to today, what episode numbers they were, so you could go learn more about their full story, it was Karen Herold. She was episode number 52, and she is an interior design firm owner. Nicole Dumont. She is a smaller firm owner, episode number 75, out in Ohio, and she's got a team of younger professionals under her now. Daniel Woodroffe was episode number 59, and he is a landscape architect owner. And then we rounded out this episode with Bob Shelton. He was episode number 71, and he is a design build firm owner. So I hope you guys enjoyed this collection of professionals in our MentorDINO firm series. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Learn some advice to take with you and see how our industry is all tied together to create the world around us. Check out the description below for any links or resources we discussed. If you liked the episode, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support finding that career path that best works for them. If you know someone that has inspired your own career that you'd like me to interview, let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me via my website or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share their story or your own. Thank you again, and I cannot wait for the next career story I get to share with you next week.